All right, let's talk about Scrum. You've probably heard the term thrown around. It's a super popular way to get projects done, but it's also, well, it's often really misunderstood. So, what is it really, and what's the deal with that name?
So, what on earth does this, a super intense and kind of messy rugby scrum, have to do with this? A team building a sleek piece of software. Believe it or not, the connection between these two things is the key to understanding the entire philosophy.
And there it is. The name actually comes from a Harvard Business Review article way back in 1986. The authors saw that the absolute best teams don't work like a relay race, where one person finishes their part and just hands it off. No, they saw that the best teams move together as one single unit, just like a rugby scrum. But why was this new way of thinking even necessary? I mean, what was wrong with the old way of doing things? To get that, we need to take a quick look back.
For a long, long time, projects followed these really rigid sequential models, like the waterfall model from the 70s. You had to finish one entire phase, like all the design, before you could even think about moving to the next. It was slow. It was inflexible. Then the 2000s brought this huge shift with something called agile methods. And the key thing to know is that these weren't step-by-step instructions. They were frameworks, just a lightweight set of rules to guide a team, not to micromanage them. And Scrum? It's one of the most famous frameworks to come out of that whole movement. Okay, so how does it actually work in the real world? We can really break it down into three main parts. You've got the rhythm, the players, and the playbook.
This diagram right here is basically our map. Now, I know it might look a little complicated, but at its core, it's just a simple repeating loop. The whole idea is to work in these short, focused cycles, actually deliver something useful, and then, and this is the important part, learn from it. That repeating loop? It's called a sprint, and it is the absolute heartbeat of Scrum. A sprint is always the same length, usually 2 to 4 weeks. This consistent rhythm is what helps teams ship work on a regular basis, and it gives everyone that feeling of actually making progress. Now let's meet the team. A Scrum team has 3 very distinct rules, and every single one is crucial for it to work. You've got the product owner, the Scrum Master, and of course, the development team.
So the product owner is all about the what. They own something called the product backlog, which you can think of as a giant prioritized wish list for the whole project. And this is a really big deal because in traditional management, a boss just tells people what to do. In Scrum, the power to decide what the team works on belongs to the person who's closest to the customer. Next up is the Scrum Master. Now, this person is not a manager. They're more like a coach. Their job is to help the team get the most out of the Scrum process, and maybe most importantly, to remove any obstacles that are slowing the team down. They're often called a servant leader because their job is to serve the team, not to command it. And finally, the development team. These are the people who are actually building the thing. The sweet spot for a team is pretty small, like 5 to 7 people, and they need to be cross-functional, meaning they have all the skills needed to get the work done. But that phrase, self-organizing, is the magic ingredient. It means nobody from the outside tells them how to do their work. The team owns the how, and that creates incredible empowerment and accountability. So you've got the rhythm and the players. The playbook is just these 4 main meetings or ceremonies that give structure to every sprint. You kick things off with planning. You have a quick daily scrum to stay in sync, then a review to show off what you built, and you end with a retrospective to figure out how to get even better next time. It's a constant cycle of doing, showing, and improving. Now let's talk about one of the most critical ideas in all of Scrum, the definition of done. It sounds so simple, right? But it is unbelievably powerful. All it means is that the entire team has to agree on one single definition of what it means for something to be completely finished. And this illustrates perfectly why it's so important. Without a shared definition, the programmer thinks, hey, I wrote the code, I'm done. But the tester's thinking, it's not done until my tests pass. And the business folks are over there saying, it's not done until we can actually sell it to customers. A clear definition of done gets everybody speaking the same language. Okay, so Scrum sounds fantastic in theory, but what about in the real world? What happens when the rubber meets the road? Let's take a fair look at the pros and the cons.
So on the plus side, Scrum is amazing for projects that are moving fast, where you need to be able to change direction based on new feedback. And because of things like the daily meeting, everybody knows what everyone else is doing. But it's not a silver bullet. That flexibility can sometimes lead to scope creep, where you just keep adding more and more stuff forever. It can be tough to manage with really large teams, and it absolutely depends on having experienced, disciplined people. This is not a framework for beginners.
And yeah, if you've ever seen the show Silicon Valley, you probably remember this scene. And while it's definitely played for laughs, it does a pretty good job of capturing that intense, very visual, and sometimes chaotic energy that can come with doing Scrum. But look, if there's one thing you take away from all of this, let it be this. Scrum isn't just a list of rules and meetings. At its heart, it's a mindset.
And that mindset boils down to these 3 words: inspect and adapt. This is the soul of Scrum. At every single step, the daily meeting, the review, the retrospective, the goal is always to look at what you're doing, learn from it, and adjust your course. It's a framework that's built from the ground up for constant improvement.
Which, of course, brings us right back to where we started. That original rugby metaphor? It's still the best way to think about it. So you have to ask yourself, is your team set up like a relay race, just passing a baton from one person to the next? Or are you moving together as one adaptable unit, all pushing in the same direction? That's really the question at the heart of Scrum.